Most people think confidence is a personality trait, something you are either born with or not, something you either carry naturally or try to fake until you make it. But that is not true. Confidence is not volume. It is not charisma. It is not about being the loudest person in the room. It is about alignment between who you are and how you show up, between what you believe and what you are willing to say. In the workplace, that alignment matters more than you think, because people do not respond to effort. They respond to presence, and your presence is not determined by your title or your resume. It is shaped by how you carry your words. You can be kind, you can be cheerful, you can be the most generous person in the office. But if your words feel rushed, uncertain, or filled with apology, people will respond not to your intentions, but to your tone. A friend once told me she never felt taken seriously at work. She was bubbly, enthusiastic, full of ideas. But when the meeting started, no one listened. Not because she lacked value, but because the way she spoke did not match the respect she wanted to receive. That is the gap, and that is where most people live, between what they feel and what others perceive, between how they want to be seen and how they are heard. So this is not about changing who you are. It is about learning how to speak in a way that reflects your worth. Not louder, not faster, just clearer. And it starts now. Confidence begins where anxiety ends. And one of the most powerful ways to reduce anxiety in communication is by slowing down. Not just your thoughts, your words. Because your voice does more than carry information. It signals your state of mind. It tells people whether you believe what you are saying, whether you are sure of your place in the room, or whether you are just trying to pass through unnoticed. When you speak quickly, when your tone rises without pause, when your energy feels scattered, what you are communicating is not passion, it is nervousness. And people feel that before they hear your content. You can have the most brilliant insight in the room, but if it is wrapped in frantic energy, it will be dismissed as noise. Not because your thought is wrong, but because your tone is not trusted. Slowing down your speech is not about sounding robotic or calculated. It is about removing the tension that makes your voice sound like it is asking for permission. And it is about helping others feel safe in your presence. Because when your voice is steady, people assume your mind is steady. When your tone is calm, they assume your leadership is calm. That is how presence works. It is not declared, it is felt. Now let us make this practical. You do not need a deep voice to sound grounded. You need a centered one. The first way to sound more grounded is to lower the pace. When you slow your words down, even slightly, your tone naturally drops, your breath deepens, your message becomes more deliberate. That space between thoughts, that pause before the next idea, is where confidence lives. It shows that you are not rushing to fill the air, that you are not afraid of silence, that you are not performing. You are present. Think of the people you naturally respect in conversation. Chances are, they do not speak fast. They do not rush to finish their thoughts. They allow their words to land. They trust the silence between ideas. And in doing so, they create a sense of control. Not control over others, but control over themselves. That is what earns respect. Not volume, not speed, but composure. There is a misconception that speaking quickly shows passion. But speed often comes from a desire to escape the discomfort of being heard. When you speak quickly, you give yourself less time to feel exposed. But that very act of rushing through words prevents connection. It signals to others that you are not fully settled in your own voice. And if you are not settled, how can they settle into your message? Confidence is not about saying everything. It is about saying the right thing at the right pace. When you slow down, you give each word more gravity. You make it easier for others to follow you, to absorb your meaning, to feel your intention. You stop sounding like you are asking for attention, and you start sounding like you deserve it. The speed of your voice is the tempo of your presence. A fast pace often signals uncertainty. A calm pace signals intention. When your voice runs ahead of your thoughts, you lose clarity. When it walks beside them, you gain impact. Now let us talk about energy. There is nothing wrong with being excited. There is nothing wrong with being expressive. But if excitement becomes the default tone for every conversation, you lose range. And when you lose range, you lose contrast. And without contrast, you lose clarity. People need to feel your calm just as much as they feel your energy, especially in moments that matter, especially when stakes are high. In a meeting, in a disagreement, in a presentation, the person who remains composed is the one who earns the most attention. Because in chaos, people do not follow the loudest, they follow the steadiest. If you are someone who naturally speaks in a high pitch or with quick rhythm, this is not a flaw. It is simply a signal. And signals can be refined. Begin by noticing your pace when you are excited, when you are nervous, when you are rushed, and then practice slowing down in safe spaces, in casual conversations, in small group meetings. Let your breath guide the pace. Let your body relax. Let the silence do some of the talking. You will be surprised how much more powerful your words become when they are not fighting for air. You will be surprised how much more respect you gain when you stop trying to be heard and start choosing how you are heard. Confidence is not about being someone else. It is about speaking from a place within you that is not shaken by the moment. And that place is only accessed when you give it space to breathe. So here is the shift. Speak slower than your instinct. Pause longer than your habit. Finish your thought before you reach for the next one. And do it not to manipulate others, but to honor your message. Because every time you speak, you are sending a signal, and people will mirror that signal. If you rush, they rush. If you doubt, they hesitate. But if you center yourself, they follow. The goal is not to control the room. The goal is to change the rhythm of the room by the rhythm of your voice. And you do that by slowing down. This is not a performance. This is presence. And presence begins with pace. People do not respect what you know. They respect how you carry what you know. You can be incredibly intelligent, well-researched, and full of valuable insight. But if you deliver that insight with uncertainty, it will be received as suggestion, not direction. In work, where time is short and attention is divided, people are drawn not to those who always have the answer, but to those who speak with clarity, even in uncertainty. One of the most overlooked ways to earn respect is to speak in a way that shows you know where you stand. Not because you are always right, but because you are willing to hold your ground while remaining open. That balance is what builds credibility. People do not need you to be perfect. They need to know you are not hiding. Most people soften their message before it even leaves their mouth. They say things like, I could be wrong, but, or I am not sure this makes sense, or I do not know if this is important. They do this not because they lack intelligence, but because they fear judgment. But here is the truth. You are not judged by your certainty. You are judged by your clarity. When you constantly qualify your thoughts, what you are really saying is, I am not sure this belongs. And when you speak like that, people will not reject your message. They will ignore it. Not because it lacks value, but because it lacks weight. So how do you shift that? You start by claiming your position, even if that position is, I do not have the full answer yet. You use phrases that create structure. Phrases like, here is what I know, or here is what I believe to be true, or based on what I have seen so far. These are the phrases that carry presence. They create a foundation. They let the other person know that you are not floating in the conversation. You are anchored. Imagine someone in a meeting says, maybe this is an idea, or I guess I just feel like maybe we could try. Now imagine someone else says, here is one way we could approach this, or based on what I am seeing here is an option. Same idea, different structure. One feels like a question, the other feels like a contribution. Confidence is not about knowing everything. It is about standing behind what you do know. It is about being honest when you do not have all the information, while still holding space for your voice. Even a statement like "I do not have a conclusion yet, but here is how I am thinking about it" creates far more respect than "I do not know" or "I am probably off here." People do not need you to speak in absolutes. They need you to speak without hesitation. And hesitation is not always about facts. It is about energy. When you hesitate before sharing, others hesitate to trust what you share. Let us be clear. You can be humble and clear at the same time. Humility says, "I am still learning." Clarity says, "And here is what I believe so far." You are allowed to have a viewpoint. You are allowed to take a position, even when that position evolves. The moment you stop taking a position is the moment people stop looking to you for leadership. In every conversation, there comes a moment when you will be asked, "What do you think?" If your response begins with, "I am not really sure," or "I guess," or "maybe, possibly, kind of," then you are giving away authority before you even begin. Not because you are wrong, but because you are undecided. And undecided voices rarely move anything forward. So what do you do instead? You give your voice a frame. You say, "Here is what I know," or "Here's where I stand," or "Based on what I understand so far." You name the ground beneath your feet, even if that ground is still being built. This shift in language does more than change how others hear you. It changes how you hear yourself. It builds trust internally. It reminds you that your voice belongs in the room, that your ideas are not there to be tested by approval, but to be placed on the table with confidence. The workplace does not reward silence. It rewards clarity. And clarity does not come from being loud. It comes from being rooted. If you want to lead meetings better, if you want people to turn when you speak, if you want your words to shape direction instead of simply follow it, then you must practice speaking with structure. Practice giving your voice an anchor. Even if all you are saying is, "I do not have the data yet, but here is my instinct." That still communicates value. That still says, "I am here and I am thinking." Do not wait until you are certain to contribute. Wait until you are clear. Then speak. And when you do, use the kind of language that does not ask for space. It claims it respectfully. You can be flexible in your thinking and firm in your delivery. That is not contradiction. That is maturity. And maturity is what earns trust in rooms where things move fast and decisions carry weight. The more you speak from this place of grounded clarity, the more people begin to look to you for guidance. Not because you know everything, but because you show that you know what to do with what you know. And that difference is everything. So let this be your habit. Stop qualifying your thoughts. Stop shrinking your words. Stop asking for permission to be part of the conversation. You are already in it. Now speak like it. Speak like your words matter. Speak like your voice has earned the moment. Speak like you are building something every time you open your mouth, because you are. And when you do that consistently, people will stop asking where you stand. They will already know. There will always be moments when your confidence is not tested by a question, but by a line being crossed, a comment that feels off, a meeting that takes a turn, a tone that carries something unspoken. In those moments, your confidence is no longer just about what you know or how you sound. It becomes about what you will allow and what you will not. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. They are the invisible lines that tell others how to engage with you. And when stated with calm and certainty, they do not close doors. They teach people how to walk through them with respect. The mistake most people make is not that they lack boundaries. It is that they apologize for them. They try to soften the moment with disclaimers. They say, "I am so sorry to interrupt," or "This might be too much," or "I hate to say this, but..." And every time they do, they weaken the very boundary they are trying to hold. You are not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You are responsible for holding them with integrity. When someone speaks to you in a way that feels dismissive or disrespectful, you are allowed to say, "I am not comfortable with the direction of this conversation." You are allowed to say, I need to stop you there. You are allowed to say, if we continue down this path, I will step out. Not with anger, not with shame, but with stillness. That stillness is where real strength lives. Confidence is not just the ability to speak clearly. It is the ability to stop something clearly. The ability to end what no longer serves you. The ability to say no without dressing it up in layers of guilt. And here's the truth. People may not like your boundaries. Some may challenge them. Some may withdraw. Some may try to push against them just to see if they are real. That is not a sign you are doing something wrong. That is often a sign you are finally doing something right. Respect is not gained by being agreeable. It is earned by being anchored. And people will always push where they sense softness. If you hesitate to hold the line will move. If you apologize for drawing it, it will fade. But if you hold it gently and firmly, it will stand. You do not need to yell. You do not need to explain endlessly. You do not need to convince anyone of your reasons. Clarity needs no defense. Boundaries are not conversations. They are declarations. Not declarations of dominance, but declarations of value. I value myself enough to protect my time. I value this space enough to shape how we speak in it. I value this team enough to not let things slide when they should not. And the more you practice setting boundaries without apology, the more natural it becomes. You start saying no with peace. You start holding silence without guilt. You start recognizing that your energy is a resource, not a bottomless well. Confidence is not found in having all the answers. It is found in knowing what you will allow into your space and what you will not. That awareness becomes a presence. A quiet clarity that people sense when you enter the room. They feel it when you speak. They notice it when you hold the line without flinching. So this is the final shift. Do not wait for people to agree with your limits before you set them. Do not wait for permission to protect your peace. Speak the boundary clearly. Hold it gently. And let others adjust. Because the point of confidence is not to control the room. It is to not be controlled by it. The point of clear speech is not to dominate. It is to define. And the point of a strong boundary is not to push people away. It is to protect what matters most. Your time, your energy, your voice. These are not things to apologize for. They are things to honor. So speak calmly, stand clearly, and never apologize for drawing the line where your self-respect begins.